All right, hey guys, and welcome. So today I want to talk to you about some films that you guys should be watching, or rather rewatching during this pandemic. I hope everyone stays safe, and I hope everyone is well. And I know these are difficult times, and we have to keep ourselves occupied, keep our minds, fresh and always energetic. Otherwise, we could let it dwell into dark places, and that's not very good for everyone. So I hope you guys spend a lot of time, watching films, reading stuff, keeping yourself active and energized, play video games, play anything simple, board games. Even if you have to play chess by yourself, just do it because right now is the time where we got to stay alert and we got to be ready for anything that's about to happen. These are difficult times, and I dare say that wartime is really not any difficult than it is today. It's just a different kind of problem that we are facing, but it is equally difficult because people are suffering, and not everyone has not everyone is in a safe place, and not everyone is well to do. And so I hope help goes to those in need, and I hope everyone hands out help to those in need as well. All right, so let's start off. So I have a list of 10 films here that I want you guys to checking out, and these films are severely underrated over the ages. Some of them have gained recognition way after their initial release. But regardless, Rotten Tomatoes especially gives them really bad ratings. And a lot of these films only got famous like years after they were initially released because people started to appreciate the value of what this film brought compared to films in the future. So I'm going to start off with the oldest one, which is Escape to Witch Mountain. Now, this was the original Escape to Witch Mountain, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 1975 film. This film, I believe, was remade, and I think it was remade by Disney in the 90 something. But anyway, I got a chance to watch this when I was a kid as well, and honestly, this was the best version of Escape to Witch Mountain. There were three, I think, in total. The last one starring Dwayne Johnson, but this was the best one for sure. It really gives you the tension and emotion of being a kid and having these powers that you don't quite understand, and and you watching it as an adult, you realize that you know this could be anyone's kid, and of course it turns out that there's some extraterrestrial stuff going on, and it's really cool, really interesting, very exciting. And the plot to have come out in 1975 especially is pretty awesome. Even today we don't get films that are this well crafted, and any film that's made today even close to this just looks like a remake because it's already been done, and it's been done so well. The second film is The Fox and the Hound. Now, The Fox and the Hound, initially when it came out, it was not really famous because it wasn't really a very jolly or very fun and very happy story. It was actually a very sad story, a very emotional story, and the one that actually makes me cry until today. It's a very, very beautiful story about a friendship between two unlikely friends, and it's taken from a really beautiful perspective. Of course, Disney didn't really get a chance to sell many toys in this one, and things could have been a little bit different if it was a lot more colorful and if it was a lot more joyful, but that wasn't what the story intended to be, and it was true to itself, which was a really beautiful, emotional, and uh, like more realistic story, I would say, about the pain and difficulty of making friends with someone that is unlike yourself. And I think this comes out into play in terms of people having problems with the caste system, racism, religion, sexism, and all sorts of things that are barriers between us. And what better way to show that in a story than The Fox and the Hound? So this is definitely a must watch. The next one is Batman and Robin 1997. Now, I know what you're going to say, nipples in a bat suit. I know. But despite the nipples, this was still a really good film. Its rating, even in IMDb, is, I feel, really harsh for what this film really was in its time. And it was really colorful, it was really beautiful, it was absolutely insane with the way the graphics and the actions and all of it was taken together. I think that it deserves at least 2 points higher of a rating, at least a 5 out of 10, to be honest. And I mean, you could even go higher at its time because there were not many films that did what it did. It was super daring in terms of how insane it was, how crazy it was, the villains that they showed. Poison Ivy, and then the way she coaxes Batman and Robin, and then Mr. Freeze trying to control the entire city. It really felt the stakes were high in this film, and then things could go shit any time because it was so cool and pretty impactful. And also the Batmobile, I believe, at the time was pretty awesome. The way you could fly and not really fly, but it could like drive over rooftops and stuff like that. And when Nolan redid it so many years later in Batman Begins, I was like, I've seen this before. This was in Batman and Robin. Like the Batmobile has done this, and this was the film that actually brought me to it. So yeah, I seriously suggest you guys have a rewatch in Batman and Robin. And even if you don't like it, I think it's still worth the rewatch because it's just so fun. And that's the way I look at it. Next one is Reign of Fire. Now, Reign of Fire, I feel is rated pretty well on IMDb, but in Rotten Tomatoes, it was given trash ratings from what I remember. And this film, when it initially came out, had really bad reviews and all of that. But I feel that the CGI for its time, especially in 2002, this was the best CGI dragon to exist at that time. And I think it stayed that way for a few years, even after that. There were not like even Desolation of Smog, right? If you look at Smog, even Smog's design is pretty close to the design of this dragon. And I think I've seen a few other dragons as well in different films, and they always reminded me of Reign of Fire and how well Reign of Fire detailed the design of this dragon. And also, I mean, you had Christian Bale, you had Matthew McConaughey, and they had a this really badass like kind of to and fro going on as well. And also the tension of these soldiers just trying to eliminate the dragons and all of that. It really felt like I mean, it's a pretty good film for its time, and I feel it's rather underrated. So it's definitely worth a rewatch if you guys have not checked it out. The next one is Treasure Planet. I feel this is the most underrated cartoon of all time, honestly, because it's also one of my most favorite. And this is completely a personal opinion, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are like, no, Treasure Planet is the best thing ever. I mean, yeah, sure, but I mean, it's not the best thing in the world. I mean, come on, right? Let's be honest. But still, it's a really beautiful cartoon for its time. It really focused on the emotions of this guy who is having daddy issues. Like realistically, a lot of people who lose their father figures have a lot of problems in their lives, and this film really showed that. It makes him a very difficult person to control, and his mother is not really the type to be too controlling. And things get really bad when a bunch of pirates attack, and it turns out that he has been spending time with his dad all along, and it's sort of a dream come true for him. But it's not just that, it's also the music from, I believe, Goo Goo Dolls at the time, and also the atmosphere and the animations and just the way that they showed the space, and this space pirate sort of concept of these flying ships, and all of these were just super cool and super awesome. And it's unlike anything at its time, and it's really gorgeous, and until today I feel it's definitely worth a rewatch. The next one is a series of unfortunate events. Now, many people are surprisingly have not watched this film. I've asked so many of my friends, and they have surprisingly not watched this film, and I have no idea why. Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, based on the book. They made a film of it, and it's basically a story about these three little kids who are orphaned, and they belong to a very rich family. And Count Olaf apparently wants the fortune that is left behind. So in order to get it, he has to sort of adopt the kids and get rid of them. So if he does that successfully, he becomes the next heir of the what do you call these the fortune, because he's apparently distantly related to the family as well. So Jim Carrey was terrifying in this. Let me tell you, this is a semi-horror film. Jim Carrey was terrifying in it, and if you really look at it from the perspective of these kids, it is terrifying. Like I wouldn't imagine how I would survive this situation, but it's a really beautiful film, really very epic, very awesome, very dark and mysterious. And Jim Carrey's acting and performance in this was just superb, at least for me. So I feel this is also another really underrated film that you guys should definitely check out. The next one is Zathura Space Adventure. Now, this is basically another version of Jumanji, and it's an adaptation of Jumanji. But the game this time is called Satura, and the game is also played with a bunch of people. And then this family gets to play this game, and then things start to happen, and it triggers a bunch of events as you roll the dice and all of that. I felt that this was pretty amazing, pretty impressive. It's sort of the space version of Jumanji. It's definitely not as good as Jumanji because you don't have the likes of Robin Williams to carry the film, and you also don't have the jokes that Jumanji carried. But this was more so a dark and mysterious story, and also pretty scary sometimes when the aliens actually come to attack. I feel this was quite underrated because of the tone that it took, and a lot of people just decided that kids probably wouldn't like this, and a lot of kids probably didn't like it, to be honest. But I did. Hey, so yeah, I seriously suggest you guys check this out as well. The next one is Jumper. I feel that Jumper is the best teleporter film animation wise ever made. And also Hayden Christensen, I mean, despite whatever people say about his acting, I felt that he did this role in Jumper really well. It felt really cool, really awesome, and really gave you the feeling that you really wanted to have his teleportation powers, because man, they were awesome, not just to see on screen, but just the concept of it. And also the way they took certain action scenes, and the reality of it, and with Samuel L. Jackson in pursuit and all of these things, I felt really made this film pretty cool and pretty awesome for me. And until today, we are still waiting for Jumper 2. We need Jumper 2. I mean, come on, Mr. Lehman, is it? Doug Lehman? Mr. Doug Lehman, we seriously need Jumper 2. You gotta pull it out somewhere. David S. Goyer, if you need to write it, please write it. We need this thing because Jumper was a pretty awesome story, and it's criminally underrated. The next one is Terminator Salvation. A lot of people actually missed this film. I was quite surprised when initially I heard about it. A lot of my friends actually didn't really get the chance to watch it, and a lot of people felt that it was just not as exciting or as good as the first few Terminators because Arnold Schwarzenegger was not one of the main characters. Regardless, this was a time Christian Bale was performing really, really well, and was getting a lot of other film contracts and stuff like that. And they brought in someone new into the light, which was Sam Worthington, and I never knew Sam Worthington until I watched this film, and man, I really liked him immediately as an actor, and the personality he carried as the machine that he was, or rather the story that revolves around him, with him realizing later on that he is actually a machine, and this entire plot that goes around it. I'm sorry, spoilers, but anyway, the entire plot that goes around it was really incredible and really awesome, and I suggest you guys check it out. And I mean, if you've already watched it, you should probably re-watch it because it's actually a little better story-wise compared to the previous Terminators. At least I feel, and it's definitely better than Terminator 3, and maybe even better than the first one. But I think Terminator 2 still stands to be one of the best films, Terminator in the Terminator franchise. That's for sure. The next one is It Follows. It Follows is the one of the latest films to ever come out, 2014, and it's one of my so actually one of my more favorite horror movies. I watch a lot of horror movies. I watch really scary ones, really creepy ones, but not too much of the gory ones. I don't really like it when people just throw blood, and it sort of spoils the emotion of fear because you don't get the suspense and stuff. I also don't like too many jump scares, but man, It Follows did jump scares in a whole different way. It does this lingering fear effect where there's this thing that's just constantly pursuing you, and it's sort of a low budget film if I'm not mistaken, but I felt it was pretty underrated for its time, and it really captured the essence of this thing that's stalking you and slowly coming after you, and it is really creepy. You guys should definitely check it out. And the last one, of course, I've already mentioned. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the 10th film, but as a honorable mention, I have to mention The Watchmen. For those of you who are superhero fans, comic book fans, or just fans of movies in general, I highly suggest, if you have not, please do watch The Watchmen. It's one of the better works of Zack Snyder, and also it's definitely a film that it aged like fine wine. That's for sure. It's a movie that was like people didn't understand it when it first came out. Like, what, superheroes don't do this? Like raping each other and then killing people. No, all this is just like, what are you showing? And then when you rewatch it like years later, or as an adult, or a person with a more open mind, you start to realize that this is reality. Like, think about it. If today people became superheroes, how many of those people who wear a mantle of being a superhero are actually gonna be good, like truly pure and good? Like, we know, like presidents and prime ministers and people high up with great power in nations doing evil things. We know police officers doing evil things. We know detectives doing evil things. So superheroes are bound to do evil things. And some of them may be doing it for the greater good, but some of them may just be straight up psychotic. And that's the reality of of the world we live in. If police officers can be evil, that's the first and foremost reason why you should believe that anyone could be an evil person, even if they wear a uniform that says "I'm good." Right? And The Watchmen is just a film that, at the time I watched it, I immediately loved it, and I started to do like look up and research on the sort of darker superhero comics that really questioned morality, and that actually brought me closer to my love for more serious, what do you call this, comics, especially some of the older Superman comics as well. I felt that it really brought in the question of morality and what a person can do and cannot do. And it's not just about Superman just punching people and throwing stuff and being, just strong all the time. It really shows you that power is not something that's just what you're capable of. It's what you're willing to do. And that's, my take on it, at least. So anyway, don't quote me on that, guys. So these are the 10 films plus a little bonus for you guys. Highly suggest, if you have not watched any of these, you guys definitely check them out. So take care once again. This is difficult times we are living in. Please keep yourself occupied. Watch as many movies as you have to. Go and do something fun. Take care, guys.